I thought I'd keep things a bit more pedestrian this time around, and to that end, obviously, I'll be talking about cars for the next 14 minutes or so, with a couple of attempts at Plagiarist's Corner. I have to be honest with you, dear viewer, I had nothing this time around. Current events are far too silly for me to make a nonsense of, and combined with the recent threat of nuclear annihilation, it all tends to take the wind out of one's sails. Not to mention the Saturday Night Live Corporation opening a franchise in Britain, a devastating blow to comedy if ever there was one. So I thought what I'd do for this episode, instead of creatively making up stuff that never existed before by using all of my cognitive powers and imagination, that instead of that, I'd just drive around in my vehicle looking at things and then relay my observations to you in an amusing voice. That's right, it's observational comedy, the lowest effort form of comedy there is. Or is it? I'd say puns are the lowest form of comedy, but whether puns are or not the lowest rung in a particular instance depends largely on whether I like the performer or not. Keeping double standards alive, folks, that's what I'm here to do. Many of the great comedians have talked about cars and car culture. Rich Hall does a lovely and insightful elegy to the American automobiles and automobile culture of yore in one of his shows. The late great Bill Hicks gave us solid advice on how to drive during a riot situation and let us know that you can do drugs and not forget where your car is. And who could forget the legendary Ellen DeGeneres and her struggle, all our struggle really, with heated seats and automatic parking. Truly a routine that not only rouses the common folk, but will surely also go down in history as one of the most riotously funny things that ever existed. Got a recipe for you? Add the word allegedly to taste. Ellen fled the USA. Then Ellen fled the country she fled to. Ellen T-boned somebody. It's not a euphemism for her cannibalism or anything. She did it in a vehicular way. Ellen presented herself as nice, like a pizza with anchovies might, which also has no place on the road unless it's being flattened by a steamroller. It is an odd confluence of thoughts and feelings for me when it comes to the automobile, dear viewer, because on the one hand, cars and the infrastructure to support them aren't sustainable socially, economically or environmentally, and yet I do so enjoy driving in my car, as evidenced by my liking for the song Madness wrote about the subject, Our House in the Middle of Our Street. But I do enjoy driving in my car as long as I'm not driving for more than an hour or so. If I drive more than that, then it better be a one-way trip with something spectacular waiting for me at the end of it, like death. Long-distance driving isn't my thing, but I like driving a little distance, admiring the scenery, wishing that it wasn't marred by a snaking tarmac monstrosity that's in poor repair, listening to the music on the audio system, not the radio. You daren't listen to that for fear of wanting to commit impromptu suicide by smacking into a Jesus Saves billboard. The steady thrum of the tyres on the asphalt, the buffeting wind both wild and soothing, the repetitive road markings animated into hypnosis by forward momentum, and before you realise it you're having the best sleep of your life, only to be interrupted by a head-on collision with a cornfield if you're lucky, or a semi-articulated truck if you're really lucky. Car accidents, a leading cause of divorce, most often occur in the home. So it's important to lay out traffic cones in high-risk areas and obey all traffic signals in the front hallway and on the landing. I wholly recognise that cars and their supporting framework are evil, yet once upon a time I contemplated getting into car culture. No, seriously. I wanted to get me a muscle car and be a real Wally. My problem is that I thought about it a bit too much. Okay, I thought to myself, so you want a fancy muscle car. It's not going to be the base model, it's going to be near top of the line. Somehow, through sweat and toil and an understanding bank manager, I secure the financial means to a vehicle that costs twice the price of my house and other assets, and for what? Will my coffee taste better in the morning? I don't know why it would, because I don't drink coffee in the morning. Only nectar from the teats of the gods themselves. Will getting from A to B be a life-changing experience because I'm in a vehicle that, despite appearances and boasts about the performance statistics, wouldn't be able to outrun a standard police car? Would owning what amounts to a financial abyss convince anyone that I'm well-to-do rather than being an empty husk with a micro-penis? I didn't become a petrolhead though, as I didn't want to inhabit in any way, shape or form the same space as Jeremy Clarkson. I do like driving though in moderation. I don't like other vehicles on the road as they are unpredictable traffic violations waiting to happen. And I don't like vehicles in the USA generally resembling, as they do, chunky Tonka toys. You'll note I said Tonka and not Chonka. I'm not fattest. I'm not politically correct either, by the way. It is just by an extraordinary coincidence that the tenets of political correctness line up perfectly with my belief that we should treat humans in our discourse with respectful language rather than insulting them about things over which they have no control. But as homogeneous and as banal as modern vehicles are, I find I am less troubled by them than I am the flock sensors on the side of the road. Every time I see one, I get a little crease in my brow, and the furrow has become so deep that not even Botox could reclaim it. If I was popular internet personality Ben Jordan, I'd be hacking into those systems and taking digital dumps upon them, but I'm not him, and though I expect, with a great deal of effort that I'm not prepared to undertake, let's be realistic, that I could become a flocking hacker. I don't see why I couldn't just use an ankle grinder like a regular anarchist. I know what you're thinking, dear viewer, and I assure you, you are mistaken. It is ankle grinder, no matter what other people say. I hate to inform them of their continuing faux pas, but you clearly can't grind an angle, can you? That doesn't make any sense. An ankle, though, we have arms on our chairs, legs on our tables. Of course there are ankles on things. Ankles that need to be ground down from time to time. The flock cameras annoy me because I don't want the government knowing my comings and goings. I don't want corporations knowing my comings and goings. I don't want the fibrillating elder eldritch god that rules humanity from the shadows knowing my comings and goings either. Bill, the bubbling chaos of Bainbridge. That's its real name. But these flock cameras are everywhere. I found one in my arse crack the other day, monitoring traffic through my back passage. It's all right. I plucked it out and I'm using it as a toothpick now. But they are everywhere, these flock cameras. Any infrastructure they can be found in the town and out in the middle of nowhere too. I was driving just this evening through the countryside, fields, and some more fucking fields, and a flock camera. In the middle of nowhere, southern Illinois, it really is nowhere, central, and there sits a lowly flock camera like some scarecrow that overdid it with the Ozempic. Ankle grinder, it's all I'm saying, suggesting, advocating, supporting, endorsing, the thing I wouldn't personally do myself because I've outflanked my own position by talking about what should be done. Any billboard, camera or police headquarters that so much suffers a hair on their head being harmed, guess whose house they're coming to first, and this video will be Exhibit A in my show trial. It wouldn't make sense for me to commit direct action, having spoken about it beforehand, but of course I would say that, wouldn't I, to throw the authorities off my scent. But now that I've highlighted my ruse, they're sniffing once again. But ultimately, I'm just standing there, turning the light switch of bullshit on and off, and watching them dance. Of course I'm not going to do anything. I'm the kind of person who would wave a gun around in the face of a worried-looking billionaire and then, upon pulling the trigger, out pops a flag with the words, "Fuck you and your silly billionaire face. May the soles of your socks be forever damp." They might die of a heart attack there and then, but clearly this wouldn't be my fault. A joke as a deadly weapon, it'd be laughed out of court. So I drive around because I've got nothing better to do than contribute to the destruction of our verdant earth, while studiously not destroying all the roadside surveillance, Your Honour, and I'm simply following the city bus, dear viewer, to see where it goes. Nobody knows where it ends up. There's no documentation, like menu items destined for Ellen DeGeneres' dinner table. I also make judgments about other cars and their drivers beyond the fact that there are too many of them on the road. Oh, I see. Driving a domestically made vehicle. How patriotic of you. Some might venture it's a bit jingoistic. Let's face it, if you own a Chevy, Ford or Dodge, then you're basically a white nationalist, aren't you? I'm a judgmental person, dear viewer, and I see these vehicles on the road and I can't help myself. Oh, I see. Driving an imported vehicle. How exotic of you. Is it from Asia? Then basically, you're Stalin, aren't you? Not that I can tell what car comes from where, if I'm honest, as modern-day car logos are hieroglyphics to my eyes. What make of car is that? Who knows? I tried to deduce it from the hieroglyphics, but it's all Greek to me, which is somewhat ironic as Greece doesn't really have an automotive industry to speak of. What happened to the Greek automotive industry, I definitely hear you ask? Well, let me tell you what happened. Greece was late to industrialisation, not really catching up with their European contemporaries until after World War II. They tried to establish a car industry, but never really made the impact some places did, such as Germany, France or Italy. In the 1980s, there was a chance at rejuvenation when Nissan wanted to start manufacturing in Europe, their eye on Greece. But Margaret Thatcher, at a meeting in Volos, snatched the opportunity away, giving it to Sunderland in the north of England. Say what you like about Margaret Thatcher, the milk snatcher, but she did her bit to keep Greece from contributing to the human-made environmental catastrophe in many ways. She was still a cunt, of course. Some constants in the universe will never change. This is where I'm going to put in my little joke about Greek roads. Ready? It's thought Romans were the masters of street and pavement, but really it was the Greeks that were the colossus of roads. But I make judgments about vehicles I see on the road, dear viewer. Have you seen those trikes? But instead of one wheel at the front and two at the back, it's the other way around, which, if you just tried to drive it like that, you wouldn't be able to. It'd be like pushing a trailer ahead of your vehicle instead of pulling it behind you. What they do to make it so it doesn't do that is they designed a system of complicated gyroscopes and computer controls to ensure that the thing stays upright, stable and steerable at speed. The exact same feat of mechanical engineering they use to keep Mitch McConnell moving. But I see those things and I think, what do they think, I wonder? Oh, look at me, my tricycle is the wrong way round. How about that then? How cool is that? Cool despite the monumental effort and busy maintenance schedule to keep it going. Twats, that's who rides around in those contraptions. Ride a regular trike. Do the Mad Max thing like a normal loser. Or better yet, kick off the training wheels and ride a fucking motorbike. One time, working in a hospital, the X-ray tech was showing me some of the classics from their archives. This biker has a compound fracture of their arm. I was like, damn, they couldn't get the motorcycle jacket off of them. Oh no, that's the zipper on the body bag. So better yet, forget the motorbikes and just get a regular bike. Nothing bad ever happened to people riding regular bikes. Well, I say that, of course, something terrible could happen to you when you're riding your bike. You could get a puncture, couldn't you? You'd have to pull out the dual-use bike tyre puncture repair kit / budget AI girlfriend repair kit. Budget AI girlfriend because it's a blow-up sex dolly with a smartphone jammed up its arse. Useless for travel unless it's pleasuring you in the carpool lane. Before I bring this routine to a conclusion, I thought I'd do some public service and let you, dear viewer, know about creators who do more in-depth punditry on cars in a nuanced and unbiased way. There's the magazine programme, Not Just Bikes. There's the podcast, We Hate Cars and Want to See Them Crushed into Cubes right in front of their owners' faces, which is an open discussion on the pros and cons of four-wheeled conveyances. There's the discussion panel on that platform that does a show. Oh, what's it called? We hate cars and want to see the owners crushed into cubes while the cars are forced to watch. Discussion panel. A light-hearted banter between like-minded individuals about the state of private motorised transportation. So there's loads of resources out there for you to dig into, dear viewer, if I've whetted your appetite for hostility and hatred toward combustion engine vehicles. And I think that's a good time to bring this journey to its conclusion, even though I had way more to say. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you didn't make it all the way to the end, then I definitely fucked your sweetheart last night, and they liked me better than you. But if you did make it to the end, even belatedly, then obviously that doesn't apply to you. And with that I bid you good night.